Hey everyone! In this third week of our series, Home Run Life, Phil Tagg preached about what it means to round the third base of God's playing field for our lives, which is all about stewarding our life competencies. In our American culture, it's very easy to run to third base first. We're tempted to find our purpose in our jobs, successes, wealth, health, promotions, and even our possessions. But that is not God's plan for our life. Instead, as Pastor Phil pointed out, our purpose is found in our Creator, not our career. Romans 12, 1-2 says that we should offer ourselves as a living sacrifice to God, and that every single thing we do is an act of worship to the Almighty. This means that when God is the foundation of our life, home plate, who is shaping us to have His character, first base, and we are surrounded by a strong supportive community, second base, then our careers and competencies become amazing opportunities to glorify God because He is our purpose, not our careers. However, this can be a pretty difficult perspective to maintain. So to help us keep our sights on what's most important, Phil gave us 3 statements of faith to keep God as our purpose and to best steward our life competencies. So number 1, God is my provider, I trust in Him. Psalm 20:7-8 says, "Some nations boast of their chariots and horses, but we boast in the name of the Lord our God. Those nations will fall down and collapse, but we will rise up and stand firm." We're all tempted to boast about our own chariots and horses today, be it our business partners, salaries, 401ks, or the like. But this psalm tells us that everyone who boasts about their chariots and horses are destined to fall, whereas those who boast about God's provision will rise and be strengthened. So the key point here is that God has to become our number 1 priority, and that requires us to give Him a lot of trust. The second statement of faith that keeps God as our purpose is that God is my provider, and I work for Him. Colossians 3:22-25 in the Message translation says, "Servants, do what you're told by your earthly masters. And don't just do the minimum that will get you by. Do your best. Work from the heart for your real master, for God, confident that you'll get paid in full when you come into your inheritance. Keep in mind always that the ultimate master you're serving is Christ. The sullen servant who does shoddy work will be held responsible. Being a follower of Jesus doesn't cover up bad work." Have you ever considered that your work is worship? God is the owner of everything, so everything He gives us rightfully belongs to Him in the first place. So if God has blessed you with a job, then how well you work reflects your appreciation for that blessing. As Pastor Phil so gracefully put it, being a follower of Jesus Christ does not cover up shoddy work. Period. Don't do bad work, then ask God to bless it. And number 3, God is my provider, I wait for His favor. Joshua 23:9-11 says, "For the Lord has driven out great and powerful nations for you, and no one has yet been able to defeat you. Each one of you will put to flight 1,000 of the enemy, for the Lord your God fights for you, just as He has promised. So be very careful to love the Lord your God." When we let God be our purpose, we're going to be blown away by His provision and faithfulness to see us through to the end. But when God grants us success, we cannot try to take the credit. Because when we do, it's like we stop at third base thinking that we scored. Instead, we must be very careful to love the Lord our God. That's what it means to round third base and to sprint back to home plate. It's all about giving God the glory for everything He does for us that we can't do for ourselves. Because everything in this life that has any ounce of significance comes from God and God alone. Phil talked about how Christians tend to separate the sacred life from the secular life. They believe spirituality and having a relationship with God is more of a private, personal matter that should be shared with a couple of close friends and family, but it really has no place in the secular and business world. Simply put, they keep their faith and their work separate, as if they have nothing to do with each other. But the fact of the matter is they have everything to do with each other. Did you know that the word economics derives from the Greek word oikonomia, which was a term used in the New Testament to describe discipleship responsibilities as well as the management of households and the city's public treasury? So even the original language for economics, as it's used in Scripture, suggests that there shouldn't be a divide between ministry, faith, and business. Our passage from Colossians urges us to do our best with our work, to not be lazy, and to do everything as if God were our boss. Have you ever stopped to consider how significant that is? Because if God is our boss, then that radically changes how we go about our work. The majority of the US population works to earn money and make a living, but an economy is never primarily about making money. As Greg Forster says, the economy is primarily about how people serve one another's needs. It's not about how much money you make, it's about how well you serve the customer. It's about how well you serve a person. And if God is our boss, or rather the Lord of our life, and He commands us to take every advantage of opportunities to serve those around us, then our workplace becomes our ministry. Dr. Greg Forster continues when he says, if we begin by teaching people to view economic work as stewardship and service to neighbor, rather than as a way of getting paid, this will transform not only the way people do their jobs, but also the way they view their paychecks, because it will change their focus of satisfaction. With this mindset, work itself becomes a formative and disciple-making experience. The hours that we spend working train us to focus on how we serve others. This will change our motive for working and also transform how we use the money we earn. If God is the Lord of your life, shaping your character and surrounding you with supportive community, then your career, gifts, and talents are a means of making the world a better place by bringing God's kingdom closer to this earth. So let's continue to discuss all this with our group.